What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Sunbelt Syndicate with you from the first kick to the last pitch. We're getting close to baseball season. For those who are following us on social media, just launched Alexander Hart's article on Coastal Carolina baseball. A big one for them as they went to Omaha and got all the way to the World Series national championship last year. Let's see if they can do that again, right, Zach?
Yep, hopefully. They lost a lot, but they also did keep a lot, so we'll see.
Yeah, true. Yeah. The hopefully number one considered draft pick, Cameron Fluke, returns to the mound, so that'll be a good one for them, along with a number of other rostered players. So be sure to check out that article. Just went live recently on sunbeltsyndicate.com. Zach's crushing it over there as well, covering his shots on the hardwoods, and also, kind of getting our team together in the background. So always appreciate that. Also appreciate our sponsors, Don't Sleep Energy. Check them out on Amazon and their website itself, as well as Phenom Elite. I believe they've got some baseball stuff on their website. Definitely have some football gloves and everything. I believe they've got some baseball gloves. But Zach, you're saying you didn't have any ice or snow down there in Conway, so you guys just escaped with some rain, huh?
Yeah, it stormed last night, and it's pretty cold, but other than that, not too bad. Just like low 30s, high 20s.
Nice. Okay. Deal withable. I know that's a word I just made up, but I think the vast majority of the Sunbelt was in the path of that storm. We got, I'm not really in a Sunbelt town, obviously, but got a little bit of freezing rain or sleet that kind of piled up. Looked like snow, but it wasn't the fun, fluffy stuff. You couldn't really do anything with it. You could sled decently, I guess, actually. Could kind of slide on the ice. And I know Zach's got some experience with that, being an Indiana guy, right?
Yeah, they got 16 inches, too. So,
jeez. How many? You have a lot of family members still up there?
Pretty much all my immediate family is still in Indiana, yeah.
Okay. Nice. Well, yeah, my parents are up in Pennsylvania, so they got a good amount of snow as well. Not as much as Indiana. That was a lot, but yeah, I'd rather have snow than the ice, because you can kind of at least kind of play around with it or do something fun. But you don't get to pick and choose. I'm glad my power didn't go out. We'll be able to do this for everybody and jump on here and have some fun with this. So thankful for that. But yeah, I did some shoveling today so I can actually go to work tomorrow. So Zach doesn't have to worry about that. No shoveling in the rain.
Nope.
Is it raining a lot, or is it just rain in general?
No, it just rained for a few hours, like last night, like maybe like 4 or 5 hours last night. But other than that, it's just cold.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we'll take it. I'm sure Conway people are used to the rain being down there in the beach area where you get stuff off the coast all the time, right?
Yep. Well, yeah. Well, Conway, since it's a little bit off the like direct coast, like they get a little bit more weather than like say Myrtle Beach does, but
okay.
Because the farther inland you go, usually the worse weather you get. But yeah, they're used to the weather. Yeah,
because the stuff on the beach like comes and goes really quickly, right?
Yeah, it's usually just like pop-ups and stuff.
Yeah.
But inland is where they get like snow and rain and all that stuff.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Well, this week we are calling it Moving Day. Now we got the snow in the background, obviously, but we're calling this one Moving Day because listen to how many teams moved around within the standings this week. And we'll put the graphic up as well so you could visualize for those that are watching. So Troy stays on top. They are 8-1 within the conference, 15-6 overall. Quick note on them, Zach. I mean, is anybody else challenging them, or are they going to have like the odds-on favorite to go into the tournament number one and have a great shot at going back to the big dance again this year?
Yeah, I would say. I mean, yeah, probably they'll probably go in as number one seed. But I remember last year the 1 and the 2 seeds lost their game in the tournament, So might be better to be a 3 or a 4 seed.
Good point. Good point. That little Mortal Kombat style tournament that we've got ourselves in. Georgia Southern was second place in the conference coming into the week. They dropped all the way down to 8th place, now sitting at 5-4 in conference, 13-9 overall. Southern Miss, similar. They were up there in 3rd, and now 9th, just 5-5 and 11-11, 500 across the board, both in conference and overall. A-State, the Red Wolves, not as big of a fall, but they go from 4th to 7th, 5-4 in conference, 13-8 overall. Marshall drops just 2 spots. Oh, I'm sorry, they rise 2 spots. They went from 6th to 4th, now 5-3, 13-7 overall. Georgia State from 7th to 2nd place, 6-3 in conference, but just 9-12 overall. I got to ask you a question on that, Zach. So their conference record looks fine, right? 6-3. They're up at the 2nd place position right now, but they're 9-12 overall. Is it almost a bad thing for our conference as a whole that a team didn't play well out of conference is now up towards the top, or do you think that matters in the scheme of things?
At the end of the day, the Sunbelt's going to be a one bid league no matter what. So I don't think it really matters that much. Georgia State they had to figure some things out through the non-conference play, and they figured them out, and now they're kind of hitting their stride here.
Yeah, that's true. They definitely have picked up the pace, and I had Georgia Southern called out as the team that I'd seen in person and really thought I could trust them moving forward. And obviously after this week, they did have a rough spot, right, with the teams that they had to play. But, yeah, it looks like Georgia State could be that team that kind of jumps up and surprises. App State goes from 8th to 5th place this week, now sitting at 6-4 alongside Coastal Carolina, who was from 9th place all the way up to 6th, right behind the Mountaineers there. Again, both tied at 6-4 within the conference, and their overall record's also the same at 13-9 apiece. We'll kind of jump in and recap some of the games that were the bigger ones of the week, but anything you want to mention here with the standings, Zach? Anything surprise or stand out to you?
I mean, I don't really think so. I think the better teams in the conference are starting to push towards the better half. And, I mean, like in the preseason, we would have said like ODU, Louisiana, JMU. Those are some surprising teams at the bottom, but at this point, you can't be surprised that they're down there.
Yeah, I guess that's right? Like they're not showing anything that makes you think like all of a sudden, maybe like a Georgia State, right, where they've hit a stride and you're like, okay, they figured it out. They're going to keep climbing. Not seeing that type of play necessarily from those teams down there at the bottom. So let's jump into a little bit of a recap from last week. And Wednesday was one of the best games in the Sunbelt all week long. Zach, I'm going to have you talk about this one because you said going in, this could be a trap game for Troy. And wow, was it almost one as Troy escapes ODU in Norfolk 83-77 after 2 overtimes.
Yeah, I had this game on in the background. Didn't really watch it, but kind of had it on the background there. Definitely thought they were going to lose. Like it looked for sure that they were going to lose. They make a little bit of a late push, and then they kind of just dominate in overtime. But yeah, like I said, they're going all the way up north to ODU. They got maybe the snowstorm on their mind, maybe looking past ODU because they haven't been good. And like we said, ODU still has a bunch of talent, and that place does fill up a little bit. So I think no matter who goes there, it's going to be a tough game.
Yeah, absolutely. Troy, like you said, I mean, they really had to battle back at the end of that one because ODU had it, what looked like, in the palm of their hand, really, to just finish it off. And Troy just made the shots down the stretch and took it to overtime and I think they had a chance to win it in the first overtime, and then they took it to the second, like you said, kind of pulled away in that second overtime. They had 4 players in double figures: Valdez, Dowd, Sang, who had 24 of those players, and Cooper Campbell with 12 there. I do want to mention KC Shaw, 34 points in this one. Is this a name we're going to have to keep remembering here now, Zach? Or is this kind of maybe a one-off game where he was just on fire at the right time for his team?
I mean, he's 8th in the league in scoring right now, so it's definitely a name that a lot of these teams are going to have to prepare for, but he's not the only one that dropped 30-plus this past week. There was a bunch of them.
That's true. And he single-handedly, I mean, you had Battle, who you know well, had 16 points, and Thomas, who had 12, but 34 points. I mean, the rest of the players that were starters had a combined 9 points, besides those guys that were in double figures, and the guys off the bench only scored 6. So Shaw really did a lot of the heavy lifting in that one on Wednesday.
Yeah.
All right, well, that was the single game on Wednesday. Thursday, we had 6 games total. We're going to focus on 2 of them, but we'll just recap the fact that the Cajuns went down. They went up to Boone, and they lost 72-58 to App State. South Alabama gets by JMU in a rather close one, I think, for what I would have expected to have happen in that one. But the Jags win 90-83 over the Dukes. Southern Miss goes down in a close one to Georgia State, 62-69. A-State easily gets by Georgia Southern, which is a surprise to me, 85-68. Let's talk about this. Zach, I'm going to have you start first. Coastal gets by the Bobcats 72-70. What a barn burner.
Yeah, in Conway. Josh Beadle had a career-high 32, almost nearly half the points for Coastal. And then Jerome and DJ Hall both had 20-plus for Texas State. Coastal looked like they were going to blow it late. They had like a double-digit lead at some point in the second half. We're down 5 with 1:30 left and then didn't miss. Rasheed Jones got fouled on a 3 with 1 second left, and then he hit all 3 free throws. Controversial call by some Texas State fans because if you look back on it, there is not a ton of contact, but there is some contact. And yeah.
What did you think?
I mean, like I said, it wasn't a ton of contact, so I wouldn't have been surprised if they didn't call it. But at the same time, there is some contact on the wrist. And Rasheed Jones did do a really good job at selling the foul.
Gotcha. He pulled a little bit of a LeBron, did he?
Well, he kind of like, when he got hit, he kind of like flailed his arms up and fell to the ground. But, yeah, like I said, I would have been fine with either one if I'm honest.
Gotcha. I know you'd be good to ask because as much as you're a Coastal fan, you can take yourself out of that fandom for a second and give us an honest opinion. So just wanted to hear your thoughts on that. Also want to hear your thoughts on this Marshall game against ULM, 115-60. Marshall had 6 players in double figures. They attempted 52 threes and made 26 of them. ULM couldn't do anything to combat that, I guess, huh?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this was one of the games that they moved up because of the snow. Yeah. It was like in the morning. ULM must have just woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Marshall, that's 26 threes, I think, is the second most in NCAA history.
That's crazy.
Number one is held by Troy, actually, with 28.
Very nice. I like when we have some stuff like that on the Sunbelt side of things. Was that recent or was that older?
I think the Troy one is with. I mean, it's in the 2000s, obviously, but it's not it's not within the last 5 years.
Okay, not bad. Yeah, they went. Marshall also went 41 of 76 from the field in general. That's really, really impressive. Just a all-around great game. I mean, again, you had that many players in double figures. You didn't have somebody scoring 30 in this one. The high point getter actually came off the bench, which was Wilson Dubinsky with 17 in this one, 5 of 8 from deep on the 3 ball. And he grabbed 7 rebounds. So a heck of a game for him in that one. Ben's jumping in saying, what's up? And go Red Wolves. Or he says Wolves up. I don't want to mess up the tagline there. Giving a little shout out to A-State women's basketball as well. A little rematch that they got a better of James Madison, as he says. So that was Thursday's scores. Let's jump over to Friday. Not a lot to talk about here. I did watch this game. I wrote an article for sunbeltsyndicate.com. No free ads, but we'll give ourselves one. This was a rough basketball game to watch. Like you said, Zach, this is yet another game that was moved up. The Louisiana schools came up to Boone both, and they did it in a back-to-back, both games at noon, so at least 24 hours apart for App, but they had the advantage of staying home. ULM just had that shellacking on the hands of Marshall the day before. Then they traveled down overnight to get to Boone. I never think that that's going to favor a team. I didn't think they'd shoot as bad, but they went from scoring 60 points to scoring only 43. App State didn't look great in this game either, to be honest, but they did heat up a little bit and outpace the Warhawks in that second half. Got the victory, 59-43, as we said. Anything to note on this, Zach? I mean, were you bored and watching this on a Friday at noon?
Yeah, there was nothing else on, so why not? But yeah, ULM kind of just. I mean, I thought they hung around. They made things disgusting. They made everything hard, all that stuff, and I thought they would have a chance, but App, like you said, just pulled away just a tiny bit at the end.
Yeah. I think it got up to almost 20 points difference, and then they cut it down to 12 with like 3.5 to go, if I can remember correctly. And then App just kind of shut the door from that point. And I think, honestly, ULM went scoreless after that, if I can remember right, too. So, yeah, favorite App at home. And, again, those two big wins, not necessarily the toughest of opponents as ULM and Louisiana kind of down this year, but it does get them up closer to the top of the conference standings. So, obviously, when you've got those types of games, you have to take advantage, and they did. All right, Zach, start us off with this one. Coastal rather easily dispatches of Southern Miss 85-67.
Yeah, Coastal got off to they made their first 9 shots, I believe. Just got off to a hot start and never really looked back. Weeks kind of had to keep Southern Miss in the game a little bit, but it wasn't enough. All 3 of the guards for Coastal scored 20. And like we said, that's just how that's how Coastal's going to win, is with their guards. And I think Season on Twitter posted that Coastal is now 10-1 when they have at least one person score 20 points.
Wow. Okay.
Which is, so if they just need one person to score 20 points, and they're 10-1.
Nice. And then is there one loss to like a bigger program or like a power program or something?
I'd have to go back and look. I just saw the tweet. I'd have to see which team they lost to.
No big deal. Just didn't know if you knew off the top of your head.
No.
That's a pretty good stat. Yeah, like you said, you get your guard play going over there at Coastal, and that they're kind of like Georgia State to me, maybe even playing better overall. But I don't know. We'll talk about that one next then. Georgia State takes on the Red Wolves and comes away with an 82-81 victory. Both games down in Georgia on Saturday were actually really good games. But what did you see out of Georgia State in this one, or what did you see on the scoreline that really stood out to you? I think I already know the answer, but I'll ask anyway.
Yeah, Jelani Hamilton.
Yeah.
Scored 38. He's now the leading scorer in the conference as well. 19 and a half game.
Nice. Did he transfer in this year? Because I don't think I can remember that name from last year.
Yeah, he was on the team last year.
Was he? Okay. Just wasn't quite as scoring threat, I guess. I don't remember him being up at the top last year for scoring.
I'll pull up exactly what he averaged. But he had some games. He came off the bench most of the time. He's like their 6th man last year.
Gotcha. Okay. Makes sense. Makes sense there. Yeah, he was definitely the one I was going to shout out, but
he averaged 11 last year.
Christian Harmon go for 23 points in that one. They had five players in double figures in that one. So that was just an all-around great basketball game down there in Atlanta on Saturday. I know it didn't go Ben James's way, but yeah, he's commenting in on that one. James Madison takes down Texas State 82-57, so not much of a game there. Anything to note in that one, though, Zach?
Nope. Other than Texas State is going the wrong way.
Yep. This is
4 in a row, I think they've lost.
Yeah, their last hoorah, and like you said, not going the way that they wanted it to, and they've lost only 2 straight. But they probably won 1 and then lost the other 2 before that. But yeah, they're 1-8 away from home. They are 10-1 at home in Texas State, though, in San Marcos, which is impressive. But you've got to be able to start winning on the road. If you look at the teams in the bottom of the conference, that's the biggest difference maker. Cannot win on the road. The only team that's up towards the top that's not good on the road as well is Georgia State, who's 3-8. And Marshall's 3-5. They haven't played quite as many games on the road, it seems. But yeah, you want to be up towards the top of this conference, win your road games. Troy did just that, winning 83-78 down there in Statesboro. Again, this was another great game. Those Georgia games really good this weekend. Victor Valdez goes for 22 points. Thomas Dowd goes for 16. Both of those guys were very important down the stretch in that one. And it's kind of easy to see the difference of like where Troy is and where they were last year and where Georgia Southern is trying to be. Very evident in this game, right? They competed with the team that's at the top of the conference, but they're just not quite there. But they are closing in. They did have that game against A-State that kind of got a little out of hand, but then they show back up and they play really well against Troy. Again, Georgia Southern's now sitting in 8th place in this conference after this last week, but is this a team that can get right back up there, Zach, or do you think they're going to continue to have some struggles down here?
They definitely have the talent to. I don't know if. Like we'd rather have these bad stretches in January than late February or March, right? So, it's good that they're getting them now, and hopefully this isn't just a trend for the rest of the year.
Agreed. Yeah, like I said, it's the only Sunbelt team so far that I've seen in person. And I like their game. But they have to play more like they did here in this game against Troy. Those things will start to fall, I think, because they've got the big men down low, and then they've got the guard play that can get good and can get hot. But you've also got another team down there in Georgia who is climbing the ranks, so we'll see what happens there. All right. Let's get to the upcoming games this week. We've got 2 on Wednesday. Marshall at Texas State, ODU at A-State. Zach, if you could only pick one of these 2 games to watch on Wednesday, which one would it be?
I'll go with Marshall at Texas State. Just because Marshall, one of the better teams in the conference, going to Texas State, who, like you said, is 10-1 at home. They have a couple guys who can fill it up. They have the freshman DJ Hall is really, really good. So, yeah, if I had to pick one, it'd probably be that one.
Nice. I'll go the opposite, not just to change it up. I just would have gone with this one anyway. And Ben James says he's going to be in attendance for this A-State versus ODU matchup. I know if this was at ODU, I'd probably be even more likely to pick it. But I'd like to see what ODU can do. You know, they've played Troy close now, but this one's on the road in Jonesboro. A-State, you know, has been a little up and down as of late. Could this game be closer and exciting? The reason I'm not going with you is I think Marshall could hammer Texas State. I mean, it could be a similar game to the ULM maybe. Not quite as bad. Again, Texas State plays good at home, so we'll have to see. But I'll go opposite you just for that reason. But Thursday, we've got 5 games on the docket. I'll make it easier on this one. Just pick one of these that stands out to you, and I think it's going to stand out for a couple of reasons. But let us know which one.
Yep. You know, Coastal South Alabama. I think it's honestly, it's the best, like the two best teams that are playing each other. Coastal going on the road to Mobile. It's going to be interesting to see how they line up against that funky zone that South Alabama plays. Hopefully, they get Justin Gray's media availability in like maybe tomorrow. I might ask him about how hard it is to prepare for a zone like that you're not going to see, quite frankly, against any other team. And then like Coastal probably the hottest team in the conference. So if I had to choose, bias aside, even I would still choose that one.
Yeah, well, I'll prove it because I'm choosing that one too. There's not another game that I think maybe the only thing is like App State and Southern Miss because the teams are the same colors, the black and the gold. But I just don't. The way App State is playing, again, they played two down teams in the Louisiana schools, and then Southern Miss, as we talked about, where they kind of a pretender, seems as they may be dropping as they're down there in ninth now. So that game's just not ultimately all that exciting. I'm going with you. I'm going with the Chants versus the Jags down there in Mobile. I think that one's going to be really good, and we'll see what comes out. Two really good coaches going head-to-head in that one too. So I hope you get to ask that question because I'll be interested to see how he responds to that one. Been saying that A-State home games get a little noisy and chippy, so that'll be interesting. And then I don't know if he's doing this just to give you a hard time, Zach, but he says the Chants will fall at South Alabama, but we shall see. That's Wednesday and Thursday. We'll skip Friday as we always do, and we'll head into the weekend with every team in the conference going at it. We've got App State at Troy, Marshall at A-State, JMU at Southern Miss, Coastal Carolina at ULM, Georgia Southern at the Cajuns, ODU at Texas State, Georgia State at South Alabama. I think are we going to go again with the Jags again in this one as the must-see matchup on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, like probably this South Alabama's got two tough games there. Luckily, they're both at home, but welcoming the two hottest teams in the conference in. Marshall, A-State, though, that could be a good one. Again, with two of the better teams in the conference. And then App State at Troy, I don't even think that will be a terrible game. Obviously, that's a game you expect Troy to win, but that could be a competitive one also.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I did write a little bit this week about Luke Wilson being kind of like a true center, but it's only because of how he plays. It's not because he's 7 foot something. He's not quite like what you would typically see as a true center in high major basketball, but he plays pretty aggressive. He's not a scorer, obviously. That's one of the reasons he's a kind of a more of a true center. He's not going to shoot the basket very much or very well, but he's going to grab all those rebounds down there defensively. And you've got Valdez and Dowd down there doing the same for Troy, and they've been doing it pretty well for the last year plus. So I'm not sure. As an App guy, I would love to see that one be close and exciting, and have App to have a chance to take them down. But yeah, I don't know. Troy's been, like you said, the hot teams, Coastal, Georgia State, and Troy. I mean, Troy and Coastal both on 5-game win streaks, and Georgia State not far behind at 4. But yeah, I agree. Marshall, A-State could be a really good one too, and then Georgia State, South Alabama. They get that. They don't get any easy ones this week, so it'll be interesting. But like you said, with them being at home, maybe you give them the edge there because of that. Is there anything bigger scope-wise that's going on in NCAA basketball that you want to talk about right now, Zach? Any teams or storylines you want to mention?
I mean, well, one final thing on the games.
Yep.
ULM home games are always kind of tricky. I'm not saying that just because Coastal's going there, but like you go all the way down there to ULM, who's a bad team. You might maybe overlook them a little bit. They're in a gym that has like 100 people. It's just like everything is just weird. And I always find that those games, like even like the really good teams, like I think JMU a few years ago, the year they went to the tournament, they went to ULM and kind of had a tough time, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe that was a different year, but those games are always just weird.
Well, and it's a good point because they're also 0-9, And like you feel like at some point they're going to get a win or two, right? Like who's it's
Oh,
going
yeah.
to come against? It's probably going to be, like you said, a home game where they get one of these. So yeah, I think that's a good call. It's kind of like a trap game at some point where, oh yeah, they're 0-9. They've only won 3 games all year. We're going to beat them easily. Not so sure. And again, they've been playing not great, but you got to feel like at some point it's basketball. It's closer to the pros than it's ever been. Not necessarily Sunbelt, but just in general with like anybody can beat anybody on a certain day. We've seen Division II teams come up and beat teams. Kentucky got beat by a D2 team 5 years ago or something like. I know it was like it's not a regular season game that counts towards the standings, but I think I'm not wrong on that, right, Zach? Wasn't it a D2 team that beat Kentucky?
No, they lost to a D1, Evansville. They lost to a D1 team. I know that because my friend's a big Kentucky fan. We gave him a bunch of heck for that, and obviously we're from Indiana, so.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, there's going to be like 2 or 3 games, even if they lose. There's going to be 2 or 3 games where Southern or ULM just doesn't miss, because that's right. Basketball. They're going to have like 2 or 3 games. Like I said, they might lose those games, but there's going to be a few of those games where they just can't miss, and you're going to have to find a way to win.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. Ben saying, like you said, basketball is a game of runs. It really is. And baseball is literally a game of runs because that's what they're called. But yeah, only other thing I want to mention is as I went through with another show that I've been doing on the side with some guys from the Boise State side of things, they put together a bourbon, beer, and basketball type of show. I'm going to get Zach on there to guest with me at some point because he knows a lot about basketball outside of the Sun Belt as well. But I went through and looked at it, and there's been like almost no upsets at all in basketball this year. Like no team has really stepped up and beaten like a top 25 team that's not in a high major. Like, yeah, UConn and Gonzaga, they have those wins against the top 25s. But if you look at the rest of the teams, like almost no one has beaten anybody. And none of them have been like high ranking teams either. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't know, Zach. I mean, does that come into play at tournament time? Like, obviously, it's not going to matter, right? Because teams are on streaks at that point and playing differently than earlier in the year. But is it surprising that we didn't have any kind of like James Madison over? Well, who'd they beat early one year? Like Wisconsin, Michigan State. That's right. They beat Wisconsin in the tournament. They beat Michigan State to start the season. But we didn't have anything like that this year. I feel like.
Yeah, I feel like just with now with college basketball, like the better talent goes to the high majors. So naturally they're just going to be better, especially early on. Like early on in the season when it's just pure talent and guys are trying to get their teams together and all that stuff. Also, like we said, some of these high major opponents also just don't want to play like high mid-major teams. Like not many big time schools wanted to play Troy, like USC did, right. But they're not a top 15 school. But I'm sure they tried to get other ones with better schools, and I bet they said no. So that's probably part of the reason too. And it's also kind of hard to say that because my Purdue Boilermakers lost one the other day.
Yeah, they did. We were streaming the day they lost, weren't we?
Yeah, UCLA.
Yeah.
And then they lost Saturday.
UCLA lost Saturday or Purdue lost again?
Purdue lost again.
Jeez.
Their Illinois has a freshman guard dropped 46.
Wow.
I think it's like the most points by a freshman on the road in Big Ten history.
That would make sense. 46 is a lot of points.
I also know it was the most points at Purdue ever.
Really?
Yeah. Like playing in West Lafayette. That's the most points ever scored by somebody.
Were they a lot of threes or was he just
he could miss. Court? No, he was like 13 for 17. He was like 9 for 11 from 3.
Jeez. That's a Steph Curry-like game.
Yeah, I know a lot of people were complaining about how they played defense on him, but at some point, like, you just got to also accept it. Like, the dude just can't miss.
Right.
Even it doesn't matter what you do at some point. Like he's just not missing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's insane. I've seen a couple games like that too, even like high school games, like you say. Like, and sometimes it steps up. Someone steps up that's not even like the guy, right? It's like a role player who just can't miss
I mean,
somehow.
it kind of happened in the Texas State Coastal game. Like Mark Drone, I think he had 2 points at half, and then like with like 12 minutes left in the game, he was still at 2 points, and then all of a sudden he finished with like 24.
Jeez. Oh man, it'll be interesting to see. Texas State's got a really big uphill road to climb next season because that basketball conference over there in that Pac-12 or whatever they're going to call it is going to be a step up from Sunbelt basketball. Maybe not a massive one, but definitely pretty big. I mean, what they got Gonzaga coming in, and who else is like a powerhouse?
Gonzaga, and then they got Gonzaga, and then a bunch of Mountain West schools. But the Mountain West lately has been like a 3-4 bid league, so like that's no joke. They're almost considered like a high major at this point,
right? I mean, like probably either them or the Big East, right? I mean, Big East has still got UConn along with Nova and St. John's. Yeah,
that's about it though this year at least.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But Providence always finds their way to a tournament somehow. I feel like
they won't this year. I'll say that.
Yeah.
I think I new coach instead.
Oh, you think so? Is that bad?
Oh, they're bad.
Yeah. Is it the same coach that they have right now, though, or did he move on after one of those tournament runs?
They've had the same coach for the last like 3 years.
Okay, I think I saw them in the tournament here in Raleigh, but that's before COVID, so that's been a while. So probably not that same coach.
Trying to find the Mountain West. I don't even know who's coming to the Pac-12. I forget. I think San Diego State is. I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
They're 14-5, 8-1 Mountain West right now. I believe Boise State, but they're not the greatest.
Right.
Fresno State isn't the greatest.
I think Utah State's been good, right?
Oh yeah, they're really good. They're going too?
Yep.
Yeah, they were ranked last week. They're not ranked this week.
Okay.
But yeah, there's going to be some good teams in there.
Well, and if everything holds true, they're saying they're not done. They're going to try and bring in St. Mary's apparently, which would be scary, right? So St. Mary's and Gonzaga would immediately have two teams that are almost always in the tournament jumping into your conference. Two teams also that don't have to worry about spending money on football.
If you're going to go get all the good teams in the West Coast Conference, might as well go get Santa Clara too.
Yeah.
Screw it. Just get the 3 good teams from the West Coast Conference. Kind of that would suck for the West Coast Conference though, because then that conference would kind of just be pointless.
Yeah, that's true. They're going to be backfilling with community colleges.
Yeah, and then there's that new conference coming next year too, I think. In
basketball?
Yeah, they named it. What'd they name it? Like the United Conference or something like that? It's like let me look this up. United Conference. Let's see.
I've not heard this, so this will be news to me.
Yeah, it's a merger between the WAC, the Western Athletic Conference, and the ASUN.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
Called the United Athletic Conference.
UAA? That would be a weird moniker.
The UAC.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Austin Peay, Eastern Kentucky, Tarleton, UT Arlington, a few more.
Interesting. Okay.
Oh, here. Abilene Christian, Austin Peay, Central Arkansas, Eastern Kentucky, North Alabama, Tarleton State, Southern Utah, Utah Tech, and West Georgia and Arkansas Little Rock. So former Sunbelt schools, 2 of them.
Yeah. That's interesting. They got a Utah team in there, though?
Yeah, Utah Tech and Southern Utah.
Wow. Okay. Well, those 2 are outliers compared to everybody else, but the rest of it sounds pretty geographically centered.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. I don't know if I have anything else. That's a good one to end it on. I did not know that was coming, so that's great stuff for you there, Zach. Any other news or notes to leave the people with?
No, not really. I mean, there's not a ton of good games on, or this week, but we're gonna have some of those weeks. There's gonna be a few weeks where there's gonna be a lot of good games on, and then next week we also got the Sunbelt MAC Challenge.
Yes, we got to start putting that together. I'm looking forward to that because Marshall gets a shot at still undefeated Ohio, right?
Yeah, Miami, Ohio.
Miami of Ohio. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sorry. Not Ohio Bobcats. It's Miami of Ohio Redhawks, I think they are.
Yep.
So yeah, that'll be the one I'm watching. I'll tell you that, along with a couple others. But that one's obviously number one for obvious reasons. But with that, we will leave you until next week. And I think we're going to start trying to do this, Sunday nights. But we'll see if we can get our stuff together and do that. But with the weather and everything else this week, we did another Monday night show. But thanks for tuning in as always, and we'll see you guys later.